Private Disney, right? Yeah. No? Oh, Rick screwed you. Live moderate.
And we will begin with the public hearing, at the 7 p.m. public hearing, ordinance concerning development bonus standards in the neighborhood business design district, the neighborhood business district, and the shopping center district. Roll call, Mr. David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor Blanks,
Present.
Mayor Cantor,
Here.
Councilor Cortez, Councilor Fay,
Here.
Councilor McGinnis,
Present.
Councilor Poland,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sweeney, Councilor Winograd,
Present.
Councilor Zananowits.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Okay, Mr. Ledwith, we will begin with presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. Tonight's public hearing is to discuss an ordinance concerning development bonus standards in the Neighborhood Business Design District, the Neighborhood Business District, and the Shopping Center District. This ordinance was discussed in detail with our Community Planning and Economic Development Committee at its May 3rd meeting, and is a result of our town planner looking proactively at our zoning ordinances, and more specifically at our incentive-based zoning standards that were adopted in our Central Business District and our Transit-Oriented Development District, and potentially applying those standards to other districts where incentive-based zoning would be appropriate. In addition to discussing this with CPED, this zoning change did receive positive referrals from both our Town Planning and Zoning Commission and the Capital Resource Council of Government. Through you, Madam Mayor, I would invite our Town Planner, Mr. Todd Dumais, to join us at the podium to provide a summary of this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Madam Mayor, members of the council, for the record, Todd Dumais, Town Planner. As the town manager said, this is really a continuation of the council's proactive efforts that date back to 2017 and more recently 2020 with the adoption of the Plan of Conservation and Development, and build upon the recent success of a new zoning tool, an incentive-based approach that the managers correctly identified that began in the Central Business District that culminated last December in the approval of the LaSalle Road Center Park Place infill development project, and more recently several projects that are under permitting review in the Transit-Oriented Development District, also utilizing a similar bonus standard. So tonight we're here to talk about an amendment to section 177-16-5. This is a standard that's in place that provides currently an alteration of standards in the BND district, but it's limited to the BND, that's the Neighborhood Business Design District. As a zoning tool, that alteration of standards hasn't been particularly successful and resulted in any actual developments under its standard. So utilizing that as a placeholder, the ordinance before you amends that standard to build upon the past work to try to encourage the use of the BND district, but also the neighborhood district, BN district, the shopping center district, to ensure appropriate redevelopment within those districts, which further outlines the goals in the POCD and does so vis-a-vis your authority as a special development district tool and a zoning overlay process. In doing so, the ordinance sets up 5 specific findings the council must make, and those are that any development that moves forward under that ordinance is contextually sensitive, appropriate scale, takes into account height and setback requirements of adjoining restrictive zones.
Excuse me, Mr. Dumais. I just did get a text from Mr. Cortez that said he's on his way and he'll be here in about 8 minutes. That was a minute ago, so 7 minutes. So I think we will respectfully recess.
Sure.
And if maybe you could do a very quick little summary and we will get right up to speed on it right after. I apologize for this, but it happens to all of us. So anyway, thank you. And so if anyone has to go to the bathroom, go now.
No problem.
Now we will quickly recap a little bit of the presentation and move forward. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your patience.
Again, for the record, Todd Dumay, Town Planner. At the risk of sounding redundant, but for Councilor Cortez, I'll just recap. This ordinance was first discussed last May at a CPED meeting and was unanimously received positively and directed staff to bring this back for full ordinance. It seeks to utilize incentive-based zoning tools that we've most recently and successfully utilized as part of the Central Business District and more recently the Transit-Oriented District. And that pretty much catches us up to explaining the detail of the ordinance, which is fairly straightforward. So the purpose is to try to utilize and encourage the use of the Neighborhood Business Design District, the Neighborhood Business District, and the Business Shopping Center District with appropriate development or redevelopment within those districts to further the goals of the Plan of Conservation and Development, but does so utilizing the Special Development District vehicle. So any application would ultimately, for a specific property, need to be coupled with an SDD and come back before the council. There are 5 findings in the ordinance that are outlined that are required to be made, that any development's contextually sensitive design, scale, setbacks, looking at adjacent properties, that development incorporates adequate landscaping and open space for any increased intensity above that which is allowed as of right, that the right-sized adequate amount of parking exists to meet the demand, adequate street capacity exists on adjacent streets to accommodate any projected traffic increase as a result of the added development rights, and that appropriate bicycle and pedestrian amenities are included, but not limited to parking and storage facilities. The specific bonus standards draw upon the transit-oriented development district bonuses. And if you recall, we referenced those standards and they were built around access management. So reducing redundant or overuse of curb cuts on specific properties, trying to get adjacent property owners to share driveways so we could build a more consistent pedestrian-friendly streetscape, more walkable environment. Infill development, that's a similar goal, or try to fill in. We often have heard other planners refer to this as the missing teeth of our urban fabric. There's a couple parking lots in the center that keep getting utilized as part of development or redevelopment, but when you walk by a consistent street wall of active storefronts and streetscapes, and then there's a parking lot that interrupts that pedestrian activity, that's infill development, which we're trying to incentivize, encourage. The creation of public space, so privately created public space. And in this context, it also includes creation or linkages to existing trail or network systems such as the Troutbrook Trail. Remember, this originated as part of the TOD. The Troutbrook Trail extends throughout the TOD, but it also crosses over Farmington Avenue, which currently has pockets of both the BN and the BND. And then also development that can encourage sustainability. So utilizing green roofs or sustainable energy technologies could afford a bonus. And the bonuses we're talking about that would be potentially eligible are an increase in FAR, primarily, or lot coverage or reduction in parking. And each of those is at the choice of the specific standard being sought and then what that particular parcel might need in the future. So we wouldn't know until a specific application comes in. The 2 other components of the ordinance amendment are to amend the table of permitted uses. It's to actually add in residential to the BS district. So if you read the purpose of the BS district, which we're not amending, it says that residential is a permitted use. However, if we went and looked in the schedule of permitted uses, it was never included. So that's really a correcting issue. And then the other amendment is to the standard of uses to point out that these properties in these zones could be eligible for increase in bonus standards for potential height in the BND, but also height in the BS and the BN, and then that stated increase in potential for FAR. As the town manager said, these have been referred to both the Planning and Zoning Commission for their required finding. They made a finding of consistency with the Plan of Conservation and Development, as did the Regional Council of Government made a finding that it's not inconsistent with regional or adjacent communities' plans, and they actually commended the town for its efforts to increase pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, which is one of the incentives in this tool. As presented, I think if we read the ordinance in its whole and totality and look at the Plan of Conservation and Development, it certainly promotes the growth and retention of existing business and development opportunity to strengthen the community's tax base, which is one of the goals of the POCD. And it does so by utilizing some of the strategies and actions specifically outlined in the POCD, such as review commercial zoning districts to identify potential areas for targeted modifications, to provide for innovative approaches to bulk standards and use restrictions. So the bulk standards, these are the development bonuses we're talking about to FAR. Strengthen connections and pedestrian facilities and bicycle facilities and routes, including the Trout Brook Trail, to encourage infill development, another action item in the Plan of Conservation and Development, and then to encourage mixed use and higher density development in proximity to our existing commercial districts, all of which this ordinance tries to do. So that's brief and concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that members of the council or the public may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dumais. This is something that's, I know, that we've been thinking about and talking about for a while, and I appreciate all of your guidance and professional input into this particular change, because I think we will see some really positive things from it. But any questions from my colleagues? And again, we did talk about this in committee, and so any questions, comments? All right, is there anybody signed up? And Mr. Davidoff, did we receive any written comments?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And no one signed up. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this public hearing? Okay. So there's no rebuttal, I guess, unless you want to rebut yourself. All right. One more time. Any questions from the council? All right, and reading in for the record, as Mr. Dumais already said, but letter dated September 5th, 2023, from Town Plan and Zoning Commission recommending approval. Letter dated September 15th, 2023, from Capital Region Council of Governments finding no apparent conflict with regional plans and policies or the concerns of neighboring towns. And with that, this public hearing is adjourned, and I think you are staying up here. We will begin our 7:15 public hearing. This is ordinance permitting the sale of alcohol liquor in certain zoning districts under a Connecticut craft cafe permit. We will do a roll call. Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Councilor Cortez.
Here.
Councilor Fay.
Here.
Councilor McGinnis.
Here.
Councilor Pullen.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sweeney. Councilor Winograd.
Here.
Councilor Zdanowitz. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Okay, Mr. Ledwith, you can start and kick it off to Mr.
Thank you,
Dumais.
Madam Mayor. For the record, Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. Our next public hearing is an ordinance permitting the sale of alcoholic liquor in certain zoning districts under a Connecticut craft cafe permit. This ordinance would permit a new permit type, Connecticut craft cafe permits, which would allow for existing or new businesses to take advantage of this new class of liquor permit created by the state of Connecticut. This ordinance was also discussed at our May 3rd CPED meeting and also received positive referrals from both our Town Planning and Zoning Commission and the Capital Region Council of Government. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll turn it over to our Town Planner, Mr. Dumais, who will provide a brief summary of this ordinance change.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Madam Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Todd Dumais, Town Planner. As the Town Manager said, this is a relatively straightforward ordinance that seeks to amend our current zoning standards, which authorize certain classes of liquor permits to be issued under a zoning permit endorsement by the zoning officer based on a relatively new class of permit. So by way of background, the State of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection Liquor Control Division is really the ones that authorize, review, and regulate liquor permit types, and they administer the licensing procedures for the sale of alcoholic liquor consistent with state statute. It involves the classification and sale of alcohol into several dozen different permit types. That list changes periodically and grows. One of those relatively recent changes was the creation of the Connecticut Cafe permit. This permit was designed to permit establishments that already have a manufacturing liquor permit. So in this context, there are a number of different classes of permits, but we can think of a brewery as a manufacturer, a distillery, similarly a farm winery, although it's a slightly different classification, but anyone that produces locally produced alcoholic liquor in those varieties. And the new permit type would allow one of those permit holders to sell other liquor that they don't produce on-site, but that's produced in the state of Connecticut in their establishment. So it expands their offerings and really supports local manufacturer liquor product that's produced in Connecticut and sold. There are a couple caveats and restrictions that DCP does regulate as part of that process. But consistent with any of the permit types, the Liquor Control Division requires that a municipality, and there's several entities in the municipality that have to endorse a liquor permit. One of those is the zoning enforcement officer. The zoning enforcement officer is charged with ensuring that class of liquor permit is permitted in the zoning standards. So several months ago, one of our proprietors in town, a business owner who is a brewery we might hear from shortly, was interested in pursuing this type of permit, and we did not have a place for it in the zoning, so our zoning officer couldn't endorse the permit. So we brought this to subcommittee. The subcommittee of the council, CPED, was interested in pursuing it, and that's why we're here this evening. The actual request before the council to amend the ordinance is really limited to one section. It's our alcoholic beverages section under section 17736. And the simple change there would be to add in the definition where it currently states the standard, it says the sale of alcoholic liquor under a manufacturing permit, including any subclass of manufacturing permits listed in the general statutes, and the sale of alcoholic liquor under a Connecticut craft cafe permit is a permitted main use. That's what we're trying to do, is allow our zoning officer to endorse this use. It is narrowly focused to existing manufacturer under those permits, and currently that's two in the community. We have two breweries, so that's the only two manufacturer permits in town. As the town manager said, this was referred to both Capital Regional Council of Governments and the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission found this favorable and consistent with the POCD, and the Capital Regional Council of Governments found no apparent conflicts with any regional plans or policies of neighboring towns. And that concludes my presentation, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dumais. Again, this was discussed in committee, and I want to first ask if there were any public comments on the sign-in sheet. And Mr. Clerk, have you received any?
Madam Mayor, we have not received any written comments.
Okay. Are there any public comments? Okay. I see one person sign up, Christopher Conway. State your name and your position.
Sure. For the record, my name is Christopher Conway. I'm the President and CEO of the West Hartford Chamber of Commerce, located at 948 Farmington Avenue. I would like to mention that I did email this letter last week. It does not seem to have made it into the record. Okay. Well, I'll read it anyway.
I can forward.
On May 4th, 2023, Cody McCormick of Weehaw Brewing and Roasting met with the Chamber's Economic Development Committee seeking support for the change to the existing town ordinance for allowable liquor permits to include the craft cafe permit. This would allow for the sale of Connecticut-produced wines, ciders, and spirits. This was adopted by the state in 2022 and has been approved by several towns and cities, including New Britain, Manchester, New Hartford, Windsor Locks, and Hartford. The Economic Development Committee of the Chamber voted to recommend the Chamber's Executive Committee fully endorse the proposal, which they did on May 8th, 2023. The West Hartford Chamber believes that this would be good for West Hartford businesses such as Weehaw Brewing and Roasting by allowing them to offer a wider portfolio of choices to their customers. Additionally, this would give Connecticut-based producers of locally made wine, spirits, ciders more opportunity to distribute their products to new customers. Combined, this will be a strong economic driver. For these reasons, the West Hartford Chamber urges the Town Council to approve Mr. McCormick's request to expand the current ordinance to include craft cafe permits.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. I appreciate your input. And all right, is there anybody here that would like to speak to this public hearing? Just state your name and address, and if you're not, either have a business or residence in West Hartford, we need to suspend the rules, but that's not true.
For the record, I'm Cody McCormick, owner of Weehaw Brewing. So I was the one that originally brought this forth to Todd and Chris from the West Hartford Chamber. What this really is about is first supporting other Connecticut producers, distilleries, wineries that are making Connecticut product. And what this permit allows us to do is to support those businesses and sell their product while also offering our customers a wider portfolio of not just offering just beer that we manufacture, but also offering other products that we offer as well. So that's the reason for us bringing it forward, is to support the community and also to offer our customers, and it puts us at a competitive disadvantage from other breweries in the area because they now have this permit and we don't. So someone may go to their brewery and they can get a wine or a cocktail, but they won't come to ours because we don't offer that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McCormick. Appreciate it. And you have a great place. All right, are there any questions from the council?
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. David?
I need to correct the record. We did receive a email from Mr. Conway. It was received 11:51, September 22nd,
Thank you.
2023. I stand corrected.
Okay, thank you. All right. Again, is there anybody that would like to speak to this public hearing? All right, any questions from the council? Ms. Fay?
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, was there any reaction from other retailers, liquor stores or others who would sell competing products? Has there been any feedback from them? Because now we're increasing the competition with the local mom and pop liquor store. Thank you.
We have not heard any, Councilor Fay, through any public comment process or phone calls or emails. Again, this would be for kind of consumption as part of the brewery option, so it doesn't necessarily impact the sale of package store to package store, which is a separate class of permit. So it doesn't increase their competition per se. It's geared more towards the in-person consumption, but I don't think it precludes purchasing, although Mr. McCormick would probably be able to tell us better if you could purchase another craft cafe product to consume off-site like you would at a package store.
Thank you, Mr. Dumaine. Ms. Fay?
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right. I think all the questions from the council are done. I'm going to read into the record again, but officially, letter dated September 15th, 2023 from Town Planning and Zoning Commission recommending approval. Letter dated September 15th, 2023 from Capital Region Council of Governments finding no apparent conflict with regional plans and policies or the concerns of neighboring towns. And with that, I will adjourn this public hearing. And if you don't mind, can we go into the council meeting? Everybody okay? Is it 7:30, right? Oh, it's a few minutes early, sorry. Oh, 4 minutes and we will begin the town council meeting. Thank you. Right. Calling the 7:30 September 26th. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening. Counselor Blanks.
Present.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Counselor Cortez.
Here.
Counselor Fay.
Present.
Counselor McGinnis.
Present.
Counselor Poland.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sweeney. Counselor Winograd.
Here.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Mr. Sweeney had a conflict, and so I appreciate Ms. Blanks filling in as deputy, and so we will begin with public forum. Is there anybody signed up to speak on something to the agenda that wasn't the subject of a public hearing? Nobody signed up. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to something? The agenda's pretty short, so I don't think so. Okay, very good. And so we go to number 4, Ms. Blanks.
Without objection, I move that items 5A, 5B, and 5C are placed on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection? All right, hearing no objection, the items are placed on consent. Ms. Blanks?
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, Ms. Blanks. That's a consent, my bad. Number 6, Ms. Blanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion to adopt the ordinance concerning development bonus standards in the neighborhood business design district, the neighborhood business district, and the shopping center district.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. We just had a public hearing on this, and we didn't even take a break, so you might have tuned up with, if you could do a quick summary of this. And
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this particular ordinance involved, as you may recall, we provided incentive-based zoning standards that were adopted in our central business district back in, I believe, 2018, and then in our transit-oriented development district back in 2022. We would be, through the testimony of Mr. Dumais, our town planner, we would be applying these same standards to our neighborhood business design district, our neighborhood business district, and our shopping center district. This was referred to Town Plan and Zoning and was positively referred by them, as well as the Capital Regional Council of Government.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Again, this was just a public hearing. Mr. Dumais described, and we went through it. We also discussed this in a committee. And so this is something that we had given a lot of thought to over the years in certain areas in town, in certain districts, not areas in town, really districts. And so this is a very big step, I think. It's a very quick public hearing and a very, I think, I don't, hear a lot of feedback, but this is really important. It is a very forward-thinking, innovative way for us to have development that does work in an area that fits well with the area, but allows for that development to be done efficiently, creatively, and in a very concise way. And so I'm really excited actually about this. So some of the things that I think are important to mention is that the connectivity, the emphasis on connectivity on areas of trails or parks, the sort of this linear trail that we now have been almost built out, the Troutbrook Trail. There will be bonuses, incentives to connect to the trail, sustainability bonuses to develop in that way, to promote and to provide public spaces that are enjoyable for everyone to use. Really important things, infill development that can break up a streetscape in a way that it really does drag the whole area down, where this could really boost and connect all uses on that street. The walkability, the bikeability, curb cuts that are not only bring down sometimes they do break up a streetscape, but they're also can be dangerous with cars coming in and out. So all of those things are really beneficial to development, and I'm excited to see that. So any other comments or questions we ask? Ms. Fay.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. Well, I'm always kind of a little bit watching out for things that could increase density as we go through a lot of development. I think this is a move in the right direction in the fact that some of these guidelines that we've adopted are old, and they need to be modernized with more current state of affairs, with more people biking, more people walking, more people being outdoors, enjoying it and connecting those things. So I am definitely supportive of this.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Any other? Okay, Ms. Blanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I love about this is the encouragement of the exercise and physical activity. So not only for our young people, but for many of us who are beginning to age and are driving less, I think this will encourage a lot of the walkability, whether it's to different businesses, or maybe when our young people move back into town, instead of driving, we can walk and use public transportation. So I think this is a huge benefit to our town, and also one of those things that continue to attract others to come here.
Thank you, Ms. Blanks. All right, so we go to a roll call vote because this was the subject of a public hearing. Mr. David.
Counselor Blanks.
Yes.
Mayor Cantor.
Yes.
Counselor Cortez.
Yes.
Counselor Fay.
Yes.
Counselor McGinnis. Yes. Counselor Pullen.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sweeney absent. Counselor Winograd.
Yes.
Counselor Zdanowitz.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Thank you, and I do want to give an extra thank you to Mr. Dumais, our town planner, for his, again, forward-thinking and innovative and creative way of looking at other areas in town, and appreciate that. All right, B, Ms. Blanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion to adopt ordinance permitting the sale of alcoholic liquor in certain zoning districts under a Connecticut craft cafe permit.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, you could do a quick
Thank you, Madam
explanation.
Mayor. This ordinance, as we heard during the public hearing from Mr. Dumais, would permit a new permit type Connecticut craft cafe permits, which would allow for existing or new businesses to take advantage of this new class of liquor permit created by the state of Connecticut, essentially allowing businesses like Weha Brewing and Roasting, who brew their own beer, to also sell Connecticut distilled liquors in their establishment. We heard positive comments from our president of our Chamber of Commerce, Chris Conway, as well as the owner of West Hartford Brewing and Roasting, Cody McCormick. This was discussed at our May 3rd CPED meeting, and also received a positive referral from both TPZ and Capital Region Council of Governments. Through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. All right. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but for businesses that want to compete and need to compete, this promotes Connecticut businesses in a way that allows a business to do that. And so I am thrilled with this. We have a lot of wonderful small businesses throughout our state, and surely in West Hartford, and Cody McCormick is one of those business owners, and Weha Brewing have worked really hard to create a great product and to make it even better and offer other Connecticut other kinds of liquor that are actually manufactured and are made in Connecticut. This is really a wonderful thing that we need to do. This is, again, subject to state law. The state allowed us to do this, and this will allow all of our businesses in town to compete. So anyway, any other comments, questions? Yes, Ms. McGinnis.
I'd just like to say that I enthusiastically support this. I think this is great for competition, or to help different establishments like Weha Brewing and Roasting. They have a great establishment there, and anything that can help bring in business is great. Also, to promote our local distilleries is a really good idea. So I will enthusiastically support.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Any other? Okay, Mr. Cortez.
Again, this is a step in the right direction. You know, I've been to similar businesses in the state, you know, that have ordinances like this already passed and very successful, you know, so it gives them, it gives our, you know, businesses a fair chance, you know, and it shows our support for small business and in this town. So this is something that, you know, I look forward to seeing come together. So again, I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Anybody else? All right, we will go to roll call vote, and I just, again, want to thank Mr. Conway for speaking on behalf of small business, our Executive Director of the Chamber, and Mr. McCormick for coming and speaking for us and bringing this forward. All right, we will go to roll call. Mr. Davidoff.
Counselor Blanks.
Yes.
Mayor Cantor.
Yes.
Counselor Cortez.
Yes.
Counselor Fay.
Yes.
Counselor McGinnis. Yes. Counselor Pullen.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sweeney is absent. Counselor Winograd.
Yes.
Counselor Zanowitz.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Ms. Pullen sounded a little more enthusiastic than you are, yes. We're all very excited. No. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, 7, Ms. Blanks.
This ordinance, A, amending definitions with section 177-2 for indoor recreation or amusement facilities and nightclubs, dance halls. Without objection, I move that we receive the ordinance, refer to Town Plan and Zoning Commission, TBZ, and Capital Region Council of Governments, CROG, for their required review and set for public hearing on November 14, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Is there any objection? Okay, there being no objection, the motion is adopted. B, Ms. Blanks.
Motion to adopt a resolution appropriating opioid settlement funds to support a part-time position of prevention coordinator in the Department of Social Services.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This resolution was discussed during our Human and Community Services Committee meeting, and as a result of national opioid settlement, municipalities throughout the state are receiving settlement funds as a result of the class action. And to date, West Hartford has received $183,000 from the settlement. Our Director of Leisure and Social Services and our Assistant Director of Social Services worked with the West Hartford Prevention Council and the West Hartford Bloomfield Health District to identify the need to hire a part-time prevention coordinator to organize and align prevention-related activities through the town, working with the Health District, our Senior Center, West Hartford Public Schools, our Prevention Council, as well as the Bridge Family Center. The financial impact of this part-time position would be $34,200, and would be offset completely by the $183,000 settlement that we've received. We are receiving additional funds throughout the year as well, so that number will exceed the $183,000 that we've received to date. Through you, Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council had.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Ms. Pullen, this was your committee, so.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to add that in addition to the funds we've already received, West Hartford expects to receive many more thousands of dollars over the next decade through these opioid settlements, and having a part-time coordinator working directly for our town to help coordinate the community-based programs that already exist across West Hartford and the region will benefit all of our residents now and in the future. So this is a forward-thinking position, because we know these funds are going to continue to flow in over the next decade or so. And I would ask my colleagues to support it.
Thank you, Ms. Pullen. And I couldn't agree more. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, Ms. Fay.
I think every time you turn on the news, there's a story about opioids and fentanyl and their connection, and the epidemic is huge, and I think I know it's mine, every parent's nightmare that their child could potentially be harmed by something like this, if not killed. So I think it's very important. I don't know the extent that we have it in West Hartford, but it's everywhere. So I think if we can have a person on point to try to get out there with communication messages and to funnel the money that can really help these people before it really starts, I think it's great. I know I'm definitely afraid of this getting out of hand in our town and getting into schools, et cetera. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fay. Or anybody else? All right. This is voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now to you, Mr. Ledwith, reports from Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of updates for our council and residents. We did have the Albanian mayors visit West Hartford last week. On September 19th, 4 mayors from Albania, along with staff from the Albanian Mayors Association, came to West Hartford for a peer learning exchange. The mayors visited Charter Oak International Academy to see West Hartford's preschool program and met with Superintendent of Schools Paul Vicinis, Carrie Jones, our Director of Elementary Education, and Irene Garneau, our Department Supervisor of Early Childhood Education. Then the group went to Public Works and met with John Phillips, Director of Public Works, and Catherine Bruns, our Recycling Coordinator, to learn about waste management. The mayor and myself discussed local economic strategies and initiatives that stimulate economic development throughout the town and region. The mayors expressed much appreciation and said their visit to West Hartford was one of the best experiences they had during their pair exchange time here in the United States. I'm thrilled to share that on September 13th, Helen Rubino Turco was honored by the Bridge Family Center with the Build No Fences Award, which recognizes her contributions to making life better for children and families in our community. Please join me in congratulating Helen and all of our colleagues in the Department of Leisure Services and Social Services who advocate for those most in need every day. The West Hartford Housing Authority will be accepting preliminary applications for the Housing Choice Voucher Program between October 2nd and October 12th through their portal, which is online at westhartfordha.org. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is a federally funded program which subsidizes decent, safe, and sanitary housing for low-income persons. Applicants must meet all income and eligibility guidelines. The Housing Authority will use a random draw lottery system to elect 1,000 pre-applications. Those chosen in the lottery will be notified by email and/or mail no later than October 31st, 2023. If you are disabled or require assistance applying, staff and volunteers will be available at Town Hall on Wednesday, October 4th and October 11th between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. On Saturday, September 30th, the MDC will hold its household hazardous waste collection at Public Works from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. The entrance is at the end of Oakwood Avenue, just past Brixton Street. The event is free, and remember to bring an ID. Typical household hazardous waste includes kitchen cleaners, garage and workshop chemicals, yard insecticides, and hobby solvents, to name a few. Collect your items in their original containers and place them in the box. For more information, call MDC Has Waste Hotline at 860-278-3809 or visit the MDC website. Talk a little bit about COVID, unfortunately, again, but the Federal Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response announced the relaunch of its covidtest.gov website. Beginning September 25th, yesterday, every household can place an order to receive 4 free COVID-19 rapid tests delivered directly to their home. Before you throw out expired tests, please check to see if your COVID-19 test expiration dates have been extended. Free at-home tests are being distributed to schools, nursing homes, community health centers, food banks, and other locations to ensure communities have widespread access to tests. In addition, there are other options to get tested for free, including free community-based testing sites and some pharmacies. FEMA will be conducting a nationwide test of the emergency alert system and wireless emergency alerts on Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 at approximately 2:30 p.m. This test will be directed to all consumer cell phones, radios, and television sets. The purpose of the October 4th test is to ensure that the systems continue to be effective to be an effective means of warning the public about emergencies, particularly those on the national level. During the test, a message will appear on cell phones that reads, "This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed." Phones with the main menu set to Spanish will display the message in Spanish. And that concludes the town manager's report this evening, Madam Mayor. Happy to turn it back to you and the councilors for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Tonight, there was a meeting at University of St. Joseph, or do you want to just?
Yep, so at 7 o'clock this evening, it's probably still going on. The developers of the proposed project at the former Yukon campus are holding a neighborhood outreach meeting tonight at the University of St. Joseph's in the Mercy Hall. This is an opportunity for the development team to demonstrate some of the changes that they've made to the project over the course of the last year or so. There's been several iterations of the project that have been before some of our staff and before the Design Review and Advisory Committee. So tonight they will present those changes to the neighborhood, and then certainly we'll hear some feedback from the neighborhood as well. This is the first and what we hope will be several neighborhood outreach meetings held between the development team and our residents here in West Hartford.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. And I would say not just neighborhood, right, for anybody in the public that wants more information. We get a lot of questions on it. So any questions for Mr. Ledwith? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Corporation Counsel, Mr. Dodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no formal report this evening. We will require a brief executive session to discuss a pending claim against the town. I do not expect us to take any action after that executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Any questions for Corporation Counsel? Okay. No communications. Few announcements. I know Mr. Cortez will have one. So, Array RX, not an easy thing to say together. Last week, Governor Ned Lamont and Comptroller Sean Scanlon announced a prescription drug discount card program known as Array RX, which will launch on October 2nd, enabling all residents to save 80% on certain prescriptions at no cost to them. To learn how it works, eligibility, and enrollment, a free webinar via Teams will be held on Wednesday, October 4th at 3 p.m. after your phones go off. Join on your computer, mobile app, or room device by clicking here. Blueback Burger Bash, September 28th on Thursday from 5 to 7. Each restaurant will provide a signature slider burger, and guests can vote for their favorite. The event is free to attend, but to sample, a suggested donation is recommended. Proceeds benefit Connecticut Food Share, and you can register on our website. Sampling tickets will also be sold at the door. Feast on the Farm is a 4-course dinner that is BYOB and benefits Westmore Park. It is really a fabulous event. And proceeds benefit capital projects at this self-funded environmental education facility. For more information, contact Westmore Park at 860-561-8260. First annual Walk in the Park, September 30th, will be the Friends of the Park will lead this Walk in the Park 3.5-mile loop of the Troutbrook Trail on Saturday, September 30th at 10 a.m. Meet at the Norfolk Field parking lot, and rain date will be October 1st. Learn the history of the Troutbrook Trail, stroll along this newly completed linear park that now stretches from New Park Avenue to Duffield Street, almost newly. Assistant Town Engineer Jim Brennan, who has worked on the project, will be a featured speaker. Families are welcome, participation is free, and registration is encouraged. Go to eventbrite.com. Sunday morning flea market will take place 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Elmwood Community Center. Sell treasures, crafts, and goods at this location. And to reserve a space, call 860-561-8180 or go on our website, West Hartford, WHSC at westhartfordct.gov. It looks worse than it is on the announcements. The celebration of Indigenous people, history, and culture will be taking place October 2nd through the 7th. And this will, the Office of Equity and Advancement, invite you to enjoy a variety of celebrations. Schedule is a virtual author talk, October 2nd, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Hidden History Lecture with Dr. Tracy Wilson will take place Tuesday, October 3rd, 6:30 to 7:30. Native American Beading Workshop for kids grades 3 through 6 and Noah Webster at the Children's Library will be 3:30 to 4:15. Understanding Land Acknowledgements, a virtual lecture presented by Lauren Spears, Executive Director of Tamaquag Museum, and will take place Thursday, October 5th, 7 through 8. And Thunderbird American Indian Dancers perform at First Church Auditorium on Saturday, October 7th at 2:30, and admission is free. Comedy Night to benefit Park Road Parade will take place on October 3rd at 7:30. Tickets are $27.50 and include complimentary food and drink. Call their box office. Skate Night, October 6th at Veterans Memorial Skating Rink will feature Mental Health Awareness Week, and proceeds and donations will support Friends of Feeney and the West Hartford Teen Center. It's a great night and great beneficiaries. Go the Extra Mile, October 7th, right before the Park Road Parade. See how fast you can run a mile. Race fee is $20. Park Road Parade takes place right after that at 10:30. We'll start at Ringgold Street and ends at South Quaker Lane. So again, October 7th at 10:30. This parade is a tribute to Rob Rolson, a lifelong resident of West Hartford, loving family man, business advocate, and Park Road sponsor. Rob was a co-host of the TV announcer for this event for many years. Renee Danino will be, from my heart, will be a grand marshal of the Park Road Parade, and there will be lots of yummy food and it will be a wonderful day. Fall into Blueback, October 7th, also will take place 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. That local artisans selling items, home decor, handcrafted goods, enjoy live music, festival fall samplings, and kids entertainment. And then Weehaw United in Jazz, October 8th, is actually a new event. And actually our police chief has been very involved in helping to design this event also. Attendees will have an opportunity to meet and greet professional musicians from 2 to 3. Then the show begins at 3. Carl Carter and special guests will play until 4:30. Bring a lawn chair, and West Hartford African American Association, a social and cultural organization. ACT Jams Production is the event sponsor. The Bridge Family Center is also a sponsor, so as well as the police department. So it should really be a special afternoon, a great weekend, October 7th and 8th. All right, Mr. Cortez, I know you have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So while the Blueback Burger Bash is going on September 28th, the pumpkins arrive to West Hartford United Methodist Church. We'll be receiving just under 3,000 pumpkins. So if you're around before or after the Blueback Burger Bash, you can come help us offload some pumpkins. If you have any young kids that need volunteer hours, that's a great opportunity for them. And then Friday, we begin sales of the pumpkins, and you know, it's a really cool mission when you think about it. We get these pumpkins from New Mexico. A Navajo farm grows these pumpkins. We get it from them, and so we help that Navajo tribe. And then the proceeds from that pumpkin goes through different communities in Connecticut, South Park Inn, Friendship Center. So dealing a lot with food insecurity, people in need in the community. And then also it helps our youth in the summer to go out along the Northeast, help those that can't take care of themselves, repair their homes, and work like that. And then the leftover pumpkins go to a pig farmer, and they feed the animals all around. So I look forward to seeing you guys at the pumpkin patch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. And my kids always wondered, why do we drive all the way across town to get the pumpkins there? And that's exactly why. It's awesome. Okay. Now I'll be going with my granddaughter. Okay. Any other announcements? No. Okay, let's hope for good weather. Hopefully all the rain we got in 3 days for the season is over. Ay, ay, ay. All right, Ms. Blanks, you go ahead.
Madam Mayor, without objection, I move that we suspend the rules for the purposes of adding to the agenda an executive session to discuss a pending claim by survivors of Alexander Garcia against the town.
Is there any objection? There being no objection, the rules are suspended and the item is added to the agenda. Ms. Blanks?
Madam Mayor, I move that we enter executive session for the purposes of discussing a pending claim by survivors of Alexander Garcia against the town.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The council will not take action after this executive session, and I would like to have the town manager, Corporation Counsel, Mr. Dodge, and Ms. Verano, also Deputy Corp Counsel, at the executive session. And again, we will quickly adjourn after, so good night.